And good evening. Welcome to On the Road to Wellness with Dr. Stanley Himes. My name is Edgar Champagne. We hope that you will enjoy this show. And thank you for tuning in to CTV Beam. Dr. Himes, we want to talk about stress this week and everything. So
Right.
let's get started with that.
Definition of stress. Now, we have a picture that's showing on the screen to show what the definition of stress is. Now, if you look at that, you can see that that chihuahua sitting there would be pretty stressed.
And nervous, yeah.
Right. And then I want to show some slides of some former presidents, some other people, showing, we're showing former President Bush, GW, what he looked like before he became president, inauguration, and once he was out. And you can see how much he's aged in just 8 years. He looks like he's aged 20 or 30 years. Mm-hmm. And then we have Hillary Clinton. And we can see a picture of her, and you see the picture of her afterwards before she had the plastic surgery. And then we have former President Obama. And so the stress of being president is enormous. So we talked about cortisol and all that. So as president, you can't take a break. You're on 24/7. They wake up in the middle of the night. There may be some skirmish going on somewhere with U.S. interest. You may have to have troops there. So just think about the enormous amount of stress that's involved in being president.
Wow, that's just incredible. Now, there are 5 stressful life events that we want to cover today.
Right. So we're going to talk about some of the, if you look at life events, some of the most stressful things that you can go through that cause an enormous amount of stress. So we'll start with 5, but there's some more that we can add on to that. Number 1 is the death of a spouse or your child. Extremely stressful. And you can imagine how much stress that causes. The second is divorce or marital separation. They're both equally stressful, extremely stressful. Mm-hmm. 3 is being detained in jail or in prison. Mm-hmm. That is a huge stressor. 4 is a major illness or surgery. Let's say you've been diagnosed with cancer. That's an enormous amount of stress. You're worrying about what's going to happen, side effects if you're getting chemotherapy. All of these things go into it.
All right, so let's look at these particular 5 categories.
Well, one more is getting married.
Okay.
Getting married.
Yeah.
6 is you getting laid off from your job.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Well, if we look at some of these in this particular line of things you just mentioned, death and divorce and prison. Let's talk about those are 3 major. It's like, to me, I've witnessed a death of my grandparents, been through a divorce.
Right.
Those particular things on my nervous system, it felt like somebody had a pair of pliers and they were twisting the pain in my nerves to make it that hard to deal with. Now, the question for you, Dr. Himes, a doctor, you got to be pretty well educated, okay? But a lot of us just have a year or 2 of college, maybe a high school diploma. Some may have dropped out.
Right.
We don't deal with our mental trust, our bank, our way of grafting information about be able to deal with something is not as vast as a person who's college trained. How can we?
Well, I'm here to tell you, it doesn't make any difference how much education you have. Those stresses hit me the same way they hit you. And when my stepfather passed away, it was like I was in a fog for weeks. Uh-huh. It felt like my stomach was in knots and that type of thing. There's what's called a grieving process that people go through, and there's steps in that you go through, denial and getting all that. And so we all go through it at different rates. Mm-hmm. So different people respond differently.
Is there kind of a free or a low budget way to get some kind of counseling that would help a person?
Sure. Counseling is good, but we're going to talk later about ways to reduce stress. Mm-hmm. But, just think about if you're locked up in prison, the amount of stress that is.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
I mean, that's for years. Mm-hmm. And those individuals have very interestingly enough, have a lot of diseases associated with stress. If you look at them, their cholesterol is sky high. Their LDL cholesterol, the bad cholesterol, is sky high. their blood sugar, they have a much higher rate of diabetes.
Yeah.
In fact, a person who was had a normal blood sugar and was fine on the outside, now they're in prison and they're diabetic just from the stress.
It sounds like you're talking about some of the side effects of stress and
From
cortisol.
stress,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so these are major stresses that we have in life, and we just have to learn how to deal with them as best we can.
The side effects from high cortisol, what is that like? I mean, constipation, talk about that.
So elevated cortisol, for instance, if someone has to take prednisone, which is a steroid, and people are kind of familiar with that, and someone who has severe asthma or lupus or other autoimmune disease where they're getting a steroid, which is cortisol, you're going to gain weight, okay, because your glucose is going to be high and that's going to go into fat, so you're going to gain weight. Your immune system is going to be impaired. We talked about that. You're going to be constipated. You're going to have problems with your thinking. You're going to have brain function problems. You're going to have this brain fog. You're going to be tired all the time, just kind of because your sleep patterns are disrupted because your cortisol is too high when it's supposed to be low at night when you're supposed to be sleeping. So all those side effects of excess cortisol will come into play.
And symptoms that we can be like warning signs that lead up to that are some of them.
Well, just think, fight or flight.
Okay.
If you're someone's about to rob you, are you going to fight them or are you going to run away? Headache, heartburn, rapid breathing, pounding heart, risk of a heart attack because you're so stressed, weakened immune system, high blood sugar, high blood pressure. So all of these things that are happening in an acute situation, which is fine, but people are chronically stressed and we don't know how to deal with that stress. And that low sex drive, your muscles get tense. In women, they may miss their periods. So, for instance, Olympic athletes, women who are Olympic athletes that are menstruating, they have a hard time having regular periods because they're so stressed with the training.
Okay, let's take a break and come right back. We're going to finish up with this. We're talking about stress, ladies and gentlemen, at home, and we're going to help you with those problems with Dr. Stanley Himes. You're on the road to wellness on CTV Beam. I'm Edgar Champagne. We'll be right back.
Families come in all sizes and shapes. Sometimes your friends are your family by choice, or sometimes you're just stuck with Uncle Charles. Sometimes you've got an office family.
Yes!
And sometimes Team Family has got your back. But what we know is that you want to protect the people that are close to you. The flu can unravel everything. Your flu vaccine protects you and your family. No matter what draws your family together, protect yourself. Protect your family. Everyone needs a flu vaccine.
Welcome back to Dr. Stanley Himes on the road to wellness with Edgar Champagne. Dr. Himes, we're talking about stress this week, and under fight and flight, what does the body need to be able to deal with that?
So you're in a situation where, let's say you're walking and someone comes up to rob you. You got to decide if you're going to meet that or you're going to run away. So it's fight or flight. So your body needs energy to fight this. So glucose is a good, fast source of energy. So cortisol goes up and glucose is released into the bloodstream to get you ready because your heartbeat is racing. You got to get, your muscles have to be ready to fight or run away from this. So you're going to have high cholesterol, high fats in the blood. Fat is also a good source of energy. So that's going to be in the bloodstream. You're going to have high stomach acids because that's a stress response. Because your body really doesn't need to digest food. Your body's trying to save itself. So if you are in a life or death situation, you don't need to digest food.
I see.
So you're going to have very poor digestion. You're going to have heartburn. You're going to be constipated. You're not going to absorb nutrients. So if you're chronically stressed, that means that you are going to have acid reflux. You're going to have not absorption of your nutrients like you should. You're going to be constipated. You're going to have irritable bowel syndrome. You're going to have ulcerative colitis. You're going to have Crohn's disease. All of these things are stress related. You're going to have increased blood pressure. So people who are stressed tend to have hypertension and need to be treated for it. Chronic hypertension. So
Under heart pounding, is that similar to when the police pull us over for speeding and our heart is beating? We're
right.
nervous.
Yeah, you're nervous. You're stressed.
Yeah.
You're like, you can't run away and you can't fight.
Yeah.
And this guy's got a gun. He's coming. So you're stressed. So your heart's pounding. You may be breathing rapidly. Your cortisol is up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's an example of it.
Right.
Okay, good.
So just think, that's how people are chronically. They never relax. People are not relaxing.
Huh.
And so that's very deleterious to your health.
Jeepers.
And on that, you're eating harmful inflammatory foods in addition to that. So just think about that.
The over-the-counter stuff like Tums and Pepto-Bismol and stuff, does that kind of cool the acid down in, or how do you?
Well,
would water be a better?
what we have over the counter now are Pepsid and all of that, and those are not good.
No.
Those are not good. Those are never meant to be taken for longer than 30 to 60 days. Never. When it comes to acid in your stomach, you need acid to break down your food. So you take the Pepsid because you got heartburn. So what do you think happens? You don't break your food down. So now you got these big chunks of food going into your intestines, and you're not going to get the nutrition. You're going to cause inflammation, all kind of problems. So most people don't need less acid. They probably need more acid. Their problem is that they're stressed. They need to learn how to relax and need to learn to eat slowly.
Eat slowly, yeah.
Chew your food 20 to 30 times before you swallow it. Digestion begins in the mouth with your saliva. Those are digestive enzymes in there.
Yeah.
That's why we talked about hydration a few weeks ago. It's why hydration is important, because then you have adequate saliva to begin digestion. If you chew your food slowly, then it's going to be broken up better, and the stomach doesn't have to release as much acid to break it down.
Oh, okay. So that's part of my problem. I'm sitting there watching the Golden State Warriors, and I'm chewing on a chicken wing, and
That's
I'm
right.
hoping that ball goes in.
You should not be chewing on the chicken wing watching the world champion Golden State Warriors, by the way.
Your home state, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah. Okay,
So
good.
let's talk about natural ways to relieve stress and therefore lower cortisol. So one of the best ways to relieve stress is to get enough sleep. We talked about the importance of sleep.
Right.
And the fact that if you don't get enough sleep, your cortisol will be elevated and you will be stressed. So now we're coming back to sleep. 8 to 9 hours of sleep a night. Getting rejuvenated sleep. And that circadian rhythm of the cortisol being elevated in the morning and goes down as the day goes on. And at night it's down, and then the next day it's up. So to reduce your cortisol, you need to get enough sleep.
Okay.
So
Under sleep, real
Right.
quick. We were told in our series when we talked about sleep, you were saying that, and I thought, this is just me, I thought by me getting an hour and a half in the daytime and then adding that on to what I got at night was good, but you were saying that doesn't count. Because
no, that's not good.
It's not
Talking
good.
about napping.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, no longer than 30 minutes. Because some people go into REM sleep after an hour, so 45 minutes. So let's say you take a nap, you go into REM sleep. Now, when you try and go to bed at your usual time, you will not be able to go to sleep because you have shifted
My clock.
your clock. You shifted your rhythm to later. So I tell people, do not nap. If you're going to nap, you do it for 15 minutes to 30 minutes at the most. Now, different cultures, like in Europe, they have what's called a siesta, or they have a nap in the afternoon. But you have to remember, I remember when I went to Italy, everything closes down from 12 to 2, except for the restaurants. People go home and take a nap. Now, they work until 8 or 9 o'clock at night, too.
I see.
And then so they're going to bed later, so everything is shifted later.
Okay. Ways to relieve stress. One of them is reduce the coffee and caffeine intake.
Right. Caffeine is a stimulant. So caffeine is in cola drinks, soft drinks, tea, and coffee. So there are good things for health benefits of coffee, but I tell people you shouldn't drink more than 2 cups of coffee in a day. And if you're going to drink coffee, no coffee after 12 noon. You want to get that coffee out of your system. So remember, there is caffeine in tea. So if you're drinking green tea, you need to make sure that it doesn't have caffeine in it. So another way to reduce stress is exercise. We talked about exercise, I think, last week.
Right.
In the long run, it lowers your body's cortisol. When you're exercising, initially it goes up, but later, a few hours later, it's down.
What about saying no? Will that help?
Yes, but we'll say no later. We're going to say yes to exercise. So also exercise improves your quality of sleep. So exercise, we talked about last week, releases endorphins, those feel-good hormones. And that's, that runner's high you get after exercising the first few minutes, and that's good. And that's good for relieving stress. So just say no. So that means people take on too many things. They've got a whole list of stuff. I got to get kids to soccer practice. I got to do this. I got to do that. They're overloaded, and they are stressed because they have so many things to do and not enough time to do it. There's only a certain amount of time to do it. And people need to learn how to say no to doing too many things. There's a book called, I forget now, but you have to put up barriers to people to say, no, you can't do everything. This can be people in families where you are people who are givers and people who are takers.
Correct.
Brothers and sisters, sibling. And there's always someone that's always been the giver, and everybody else and the whole family dynamic is about you giving. Well, that's going to have to end at some point. So that in and of itself is stressful.
All right, so I think we better take a break, and we want to come back with another one about relieving stress, and we're going to talk about soothing music and faith in God.
And learning to relax.
That's right.
Most people have a hard time relaxing. They just are tight all the time.
Yeah, my wife tells me that. I keep my clothes on until time to go to bed. She takes her clothes off at news time. All right, you're on the road to wellness with Dr. Stanley Himes and Edgar Champagne, CTV Beam. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be right back.
It takes less than 1 minute to find out if you may have prediabetes. You can do it here. But you probably won't. You're busy. Kids, work, show coming back in 48 seconds. So let's do this now. Hold up 1 finger if you're a man, women, 0. 3 more fingers if you're over 60, 2 over 50, 1 over 40. If you're not sure, keep in mind you're sitting on a couch right now, so 1 more finger if you're not very active. 1 finger if yes, 0 if no. 1 yes, 0 no. Next, find the body type that looks most like you and hold up that many fingers while I look around awkwardly. And that's it. If you're holding up 5 fingers or more, you probably have prediabetes. Sorry to be so blunt, but hey, you're busy. Just go to the site.
Welcome back to Dr. Stanley Himes on the road to wellness with your CTV Beam. This is Edgar Champagne. Dr. Himes, we're talking about stress and ways to relieve stress. One good way is laughter. And we need to talk about that because people don't really know that.
Right. It's hard to feel stress when you're laughing. And study after study has shown that laughter lowers cortisol and can improve your immune system in the long term. So a person by the name of Norman Cousins, we learned about this in medical school. He was a writer for the Saturday Evening Post, which is now no longer there. And he was diagnosed with ankylosing spondylitis, which is a horrible, debilitating disease of the cervical spine. and autoimmune, and he was told that he didn't have much time to live. In fact, a few months. And he decided that he was going to tell the doctors, no, I'm going to cure myself. So he took high-dose vitamin C. He got a room in the hotel across the street from the hospital, and he rented, this is when we had VHS tapes.
Sure.
He rented old Marx Brothers movies and Three Stooges movies. And he laughed and laughed and laughed. And he would watch this stuff for hours between the laughter and the vitamin C. And they couldn't believe when he came back after a few months of this, his disease was in remission and almost gone just by the relief of stress. Now, they didn't know that at the time about vitamin C and connective tissue disease and laughter reducing stress, but laughter is so important. So a lot of times we take ourselves too seriously.
That's right.
And you need to be able to laugh at yourself, laugh with your spouse, and just have a good time and just let your, so to speak, let your hair down type of thing.
As a young boy in Mississippi, we would go to school the next day and recite parts in different comedy sitcoms that we'd watch.
Right.
And everybody got a chance to laugh again, revisit that laugh.
Right.
And
right.
so
and that's good for you.
yeah.
Yeah. It's like go to a comedy show, go to the comedy club. I love comedy.
Yeah.
And I like to go see comedians. Mm-hmm. And it's hilarious. I mean, you laugh so hard, your stomach hurts. That's the kind of laughter you need.
Right.
That's the kind of laughter that really lowers your stress, and that's good for you.
Yeah. I like to watch Johnny Carson flicks because he was funny, but his guests were good.
Are funny.
Buddy Hackett, Rodney Dangerfield, Flip Wilson, and all those people.
And there's people on now that are funny.
Yeah.
They can be
Martin.
Right. Yeah. So there's so many things that, whatever your taste is, just learn how to laugh at yourself, laugh at life, because a lot of things we don't have control over. Mm-hmm. But you do have control over laughing and being happy and reducing your stress.
And that doesn't cost anything.
It costs nothing.
Yeah. Can music help?
Music is very soothing. So I say instrumentals because depending on the words of the music, that might stress you out.
Sure,
so,
sure.
If you're instrumental, like jazz playing in the background, take a nice hot bath, that's very relaxing. Mm-hmm. Learn how to relax. There are certain breathing exercises you do that I would tell my patients, learn to deep breathe and to get rid of that stress. I tell people they should twice a day go into a quiet place, go into the closet away from your spouse, away from your kids with the lights out, lay down, close your eyes, and do breathing exercises. Start at your toes and breathe. Take a breath in and breathe out and relax and work your way up to your ankle, all the way up to your head. And this probably take 10 or 15 minutes. And by that time,
You're relaxed.
you are relaxed.
Yeah.
Your cortisol has come down. And it's amazing how well that works. You can do that at work for 2 minutes.
When you listen to or watch some of the meditation videos, Dr. Himes, they try to get you to pull in the air and expand your rib cage from the diaphragm and really, really get that full.
Right.
And
diaphragmatic breathing.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Breathe it out.
But a lot of that breathing is to take your mind off of all of your worries and the bills and the dog and your kids and work and your boss at work and all the, you're trying to be of yourself and relax and just relax. Another way I tell people is to get out in nature. Now we're getting to where the temperature is nice outside. Go out and walk and just be quiet and listen. You can hear birds singing, you can hear all kind of stuff. That's very relaxing.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll do it in the evening when the sun's go down. I worked on this tan a long time.
Okay.
How about church and faith and believing in God and stuff like that?
Right. Church and faith and belief systems are very important. Prayer is very important. Prayer twice a day can relieve stress. And I can't say anything more about that. Studies have shown that people who pray for, let's say someone in the church is sick, a specific person. If people pray for that person, studies have shown that that person will get healthier sooner. Their disease will not last as long just by prayer. Okay?
Okay.
Other thing is to write it down.
Like a journal.
Right. And it's called a gratitude journal. So we're going to show a slide of examples of that. So if you are grateful, then you are positive. You're accentuating the positive. I'm grateful to be alive today. I'm grateful that I'm breathing. I'm grateful. A lot of times we don't realize how well we have it until I hit my thumb and spring it, and now everything I do, it hurts.
Yeah.
And, so being grateful has been shown to relieve stress and anxiety, to focus on the positive, and people have had healthier heart, you'll sleep better, you have a sense of well-being.
And being grateful, too, that you had a decent meal. People don't realize how lucky they are and how fortunate they are if you can have a great meal. Some people are not able to sit down with a knife and fork at a tablecloth, go out to a decent meal. Some people are not able to have an entree with a starch and a green vegetable because they might have just ramen noodles, Dr. Himes.
There are some people that don't have a house to live in that are living on the street.
Yes, sir.
They don't have a house, they don't have a meal, they don't have but the clothes on their backs. So we have to be grateful for what we have. And I tell people to do this twice a day, to sit down and write it out. Today I am grateful for this. I'm grateful for my wife. I'm grateful for my children, the health of my children. Reach out and say thanks to somebody that's done something for you. That gratitude will help them and it will help you. You need to get out and volunteer for things. I would do things where I would work for Brown Bag of Columbus and deliver groceries to the elderly that were shut in, to deliver groceries to them. When you help other people, it doesn't just help them, it helps you.
Okay. There's some health benefits to it, like your heart, sleep better, and give you a sense of overall well-being.
Right. Those are all positives. So the other thing is to learn to avoid procrastination. Well, I'm going to put this off until tomorrow, so that things just pile up, and now you're stressed because I've got all this stuff to do and I don't have enough time to do it. So again, that's more stress. On the other end of saying, no, here we are, the things you need to do, you're not getting done in a timely manner. One of the other things we need to talk about are foods that can lower stress and cortisol levels.
What are
Dark chocolate.
Dark chocolate, okay.
Fruits, bananas, pears, black or green tea without caffeine. Make sure they don't have caffeine in it.
Okay.
Probiotics. So symbiotic bacteria in foods help our gastrointestinal tract. So people are into these probiotics and taking these pills. Well, eating foods like sauerkraut, kimchi, they have natural bacteria in it, and yogurt. Now, a lot of the yogurt that are on the shelf do not have bacteria in it. They're pasteurized. So you have to make sure that they have active or live cultures in the yogurt. And water, because dehydration in and of itself increases your cortisol levels. We talked about the importance of drinking water several weeks ago.
Right.
So these type of foods really help to reduce your cortisol level.
So, but go back to you were mentioning some of the fruits. You said bananas?
Bananas, pears.
Okay.
Yeah, those fruits.
Nothing green?
Not that necessarily reduce cortisol level.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. But black tea with no caffeine, I got to look into that.
Yeah,
because
black tea or green tea. Green tea is really good for you.
Some people don't like the taste of yogurt. I was listening on public radio where a lady said that the yogurt we have over here, if it doesn't have a certain amount of sourness to it, that may be because of the absence of bacteria.
Bacteria, yes.
Sir. What's a brand or two that you might have studied from California that you all eat?
Well, I'm not going to mention any brands, but you want natural yogurt that has live cultures in it.
It'll be on the labels?
Yes, it'll say live cultures in it.
Okay.
Now, you can make your own sauerkraut. Now, I've done that before where you take cabbage, you wash it off, and you put it in a bowl, and you let the bacteria work in there and make sauerkraut. Because all you're eating with the sauerkraut and the kimchi and all this is good bacteria that's good for your gastrointestinal tract.
Okay. All right, well, what are we going to talk about next week?
So next week, we're going to talk about some medical hot issues. So one is talking about aspirin. Now, we've got something in the news about the risk-benefit of taking aspirin and people taking baby aspirin a day. Other hot issue is about the Z sleeping prescription pills. We talked about sleep a few weeks ago, and the FDA just put out a black box warning on these pills and the problems with them. And then we're going to talk about blaming on the alcohol, blaming on the alcohol. The good, the bad, and the ugly having to do with alcohol.
How about our hip Dr. Hines here? I got a little Jamie Foxx with you.
Yeah, blame it on the alcohol.
I love it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. You're on the road to wellness with Dr. Stanley Himes. I'm Edgar Champagne. We'll see you next week. Thanks for tuning in. CTV Beam.